Evening.
Good evening, all.
Hello.
So, hey, Brian, if I could take a minute or two before we get started for a couple of items.
No, I don't see no reason why not.
Okay. So Monday night's meeting, I think it was one of Suzanne's photos. There were two of them there. If it wasn't Suzanne, it was someone else's. So that got me curious. It turns out you can post, and I don't know what the numerical limit is. I put about 6 or maybe a half a dozen photos on just before the meeting started. You do your create a post, give it a title, go to images, do the upload by the drag or the selection method, and just go to your folder and select a half a dozen photos, and they all go in the same post.
I see that.
You can also, if you've added one photo, there's another box that'll pop up next to it with a plus, and you can add a different one in there too.
Okay. So it would have been nice, it's probably too late for this current scavenger hunt because it would require people reloading the photos they already have. But going forward, this would be an ideal situation for the scavenger hunt where everyone could have loaded all of their photos in one post rather than 50 different posts.
Jim, can you give them individual titles though? Or it would just be under the flare, one flare?
I didn't try to do any titles, but you're probably right. You probably can't.
Because I did that by accident. That was with my pizza shot, but I deleted them because I didn't mean to put two on there. So it was a total accident. But
Yeah, you had mentioned that the other night.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah, that's a good point
Willow
as far
shot
as the
has-
lack of titles. I don't imagine, unless you put a title on, you know, on the original photo, I don't think there's a way to add anything to Reddit.
Yeah. Because I did it when I did the Weeping Willow shot. That was, I think when I posted that, it was right when they started adding that feature. Because there were two boxes of like, oh, okay, I'll put both of them in.
Okay.
But I couldn't, the only title is the thread title. You don't get a different title for each separate image.
Yeah. So, and then, so that and related item, I have not posted any photos for the scavenger hunt. And to be quite honest, it was like 50 items. Oh man, I'll never have the time to do that, and blah, 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 blah. So I just didn't do anything. So based on Monday night's meeting, I need like someone to push me to do things is my problem. So I set myself the objective. I'm going to have to leave the meeting early, about a half hour or so, because I decided today I was going to take all 50 photos. And I do it with just one lens. I'm using my 35mm prime. That was my other objective. And they're all going to be black and white. But anyway, I have 2 photos yet to do, and that's the sunset and the lake streak. So I'll leave the meeting early today so that I can get into Greensburg and do my sunset photo.
Not a very good sunset night.
So I was driving Pat crazy today. I spent my morning at Twin Lakes, the early afternoon in downtown Greensburg, and quick visit to Mammoth Park, and now I'll be off back to Greensburg this evening. So it's been a fun day. I'm done.
Doing a little research while you were speaking, it looks like you can only post up to 20 photos at one time.
20, okay.
How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm tired.
Well, this is my second Zoom, 6 to 7 and 7 to whatever you guys decide.
Oh, and Margie, I see you on there. It turned out Carolyn actually called me during Monday nights. Wait, when do you have her meeting?
Monday night.
And I didn't realize she had called. So yesterday I spent an hour on the phone with her, and she's able to upload to Reddit now.
And you did tell her that the scavenger hunt was extended?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I think she was quite happy.
She's
Yeah.
posting pictures.
Yep. Yeah, she posted a bunch earlier.
Yep.
The problem is I'll never get that hour back in my life.
Well, I left a message to her today, told her about the Photoshop tonight and about the extension of the scavenger hunt. I figured after she talked to you, Jim, she had to go out on her driveway. That's where she has her chair at and chill out a little bit.
Did you say something about blood?
About what?
Did you say blood?
No, driveway.
Oh.
She has her chair set up as a patio on her driveway because she's got all those, you know, it's a parking lot. Her driveway is a parking lot. If you haven't seen her place.
No.
So in the handicap area is where she has her chair set up.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to talk about Photoshop tonight. And Margie is going to talk to us about the history brush. I believe that's where we left off last time.
I am?
You are. You know that. We talked earlier.
About my video camera having to look at the screen?
I wasn't saying anything. I let it go, but Margie called me and asked me if her video camera had to work so she could share the screen. And
Hey, I was having a senior moment, okay, until I realized it'd be hard to have that video look at my screen. I'm just bending over.
I patiently waited for her to answer her own question.
Yeah.
So we're going to have Margie. Margie's going to talk to us about the history brush. And then, Margie, if you want to do anything beyond that, that is fine. Otherwise, I can take back over at that point and go on down through the rest of the toolbar there. We are using the photographer's view at this point. Thank you, Dennis, for pointing that out last time. Which, if you're not aware of that, if you go under the Window tab on Photoshop and go to Workspace, there's different workspaces that you can pick, and we're using the one that says Photography. Okay. Margie, did you need instructions as to how to share your screen?
I don't know. I'm going to play with it. I've never done it.
Okay. Well, I can talk you through it quite easily.
You see it?
Yep.
You still want to talk me through it, Brian?
No, I think we got it under control.
All right, this is going to be pretty fast. History brush is quite simple. Let me see what I want to do here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go up to the quick selection tool. Yeah, I sure am. Let me get my stuff together here. All right, I'm going to just select this. Like I said, I'm not going to do a perfect job of anything because I'm just going to make it quick. So then I'm going to go up. For those that do not have Topaz or Silverflex Pro, the way that you can go ahead and do a better black and white is to go to your channel mixer. And I'm not going to get into what all the channel mixer here does, but it's got a lot of different settings here. And it's really great. I do love it. And I'm going to go ahead and just make it monochrome. You're going to have to give me a second here.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, hold on. I've got two dogs running around me, and I mean full blast around me. So let me just start over. You guys behave. Jeez.
She talking to us or her dogs?
My dogs are going crazy right now. Okay, I'm just leaving it like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and do that. Then you can go ahead and go to your history brush and bring your color back. Up here, opacity, really watch your opacity. I'm going to set that to 85. And you can see how it's black and white. And you see a lot of pictures like this that have it where you just have one color in the picture.
So Margie, I see the result, but when you applied the history brush, did it just kind of undo your previous?
Yes, with the history brush, it takes you back to your different steps until you go all the way back. Depending upon your opacity, it can take you all the way back at 100% opacity to the original. But
so it doesn't do it by step, it does it by shades, if you will, based on opacity.
Right. And then if you go ahead and you can go to select hand inverse, which is, of course, is your control I. Then you go back to your history brush. And I'm going to keep it on that 49%. I'm going to bring up my and give me a second here. I'm going to go ahead and use my history brush now, again, and bring up the coloring in here. You can see some of the coloring coming back.
Yep.
Just to give you an idea, and I've got this set at 45. If you want more color, go ahead and set it at 55, 65, and etc. So that just gives you an idea of something you can do with your history brush. Any questions on that? Of course, you can go Control D, or you can go up here to select, deselect. And you've got a different, entirely different picture. This is the before. This is the after. You don't have to make layers for everything. You know, for those who really want to make layers for each step, you can do that. For those who just want simple editing, you don't need to make layers. Okay, that's one of them. This thing up here is really killing me. Okay. The next one I'm going to do is this one here. This is going to be a few different steps, and I'm going to go ahead and start with now, Jim, you're not going to like this, but some of the others, Missy, Marty, who likes to take a photo that they took, Beth, and change it entirely into a piece of art. This is what this is going to do. So you do your pattern, which is right here, and that's your pattern stamp tool. And I am going to whiten all of this out. I'm going to do just a fast job of it, okay? It's not going to be anything perfect.
Margie, what tool are you using to wipe the thing out?
Your pattern right here, you see where your clone stamp tool is? It's your pattern stamp tool.
And then where do you selecting the pattern?
Up on top.
Okay.
Your opacity, your flow, your pattern, everything is right up on top.
All right, thank you.
All right, I am going to take that down some. Like I said, this is just going to be a real fast type of job. Then I'm going to go on here and to make fog, I always use something like the Dodge tool. There's several different ways, and I've got this set at 23. I think I'm going to bring it up to, I'm just going to guess, 31. And use your, go back to your history brush. I'm going to take that down. I'm going to just guess on this. Like I said, this is very fast. To 14. We'll try 14. Very, very fast, sloppy job, but it's giving you an idea what you can do with it. Now, when I did this here, I actually will show you, that's a very messy job, but this here is what I ended up with when I did it, and I took my time. So you took that one photo here and turned it into this one here by using your history brush, your cloning tool, and your pattern tool. There's a lot you can do with your history brush, and I'd say just practice with it, you know? It's just takes it to different steps, back to different shades, all the way back to the original. Any questions?
So basically it makes a decision based on the
Opacity.
of the brush that you're using.
Yes, it
How
does.
far back into the picture it goes.
Yeah, let me show you. I'm down here at the history brush. Okay, I can go ahead and bring it up to 100%. And it takes you right back to where
So
you were.
but it always takes you back to the original photo, correct? So
Yes,
no matter what
yeah.
steps you have in between.
Yes, it always takes you back to
Ah,
the original folder. So how far back you want it taken will depend upon your opacity.
okay.
And anyway, I mean, you can sit here and do all kinds of markings on there, you know, it's, well, anything like that, you know, it doesn't matter what. And then you just use this and it's at 100% and it'll just take you back to my clouds, you see? So there's a lot you can do with it, but that's taking it back to the original. In fact, you could just take it all the way back for that matter. This is taking it back to the original photo. So it's controlled with the opacity is what, to how far back you want it taken.
Getting
Oh,
back
something
to-
else that's very important on this. If you crop your photo, History Brush will not be able to use your History Brush. It has to be the original size. So you can't crop your photo and expect to use it. It's like, all right, History Brush. See, can't use it. Cannot use History Brush.
So what if you work on a photo after you crop it? Well, it won't let you do it again, no matter what, right?
Yeah, if you work on the photo, crop it, you cannot go back. It won't let you, just like this photo. It won't let me go back. Say, let me go back to, I'll just show you real quick. Okay. Now if I crop it, it will not let me go back. See?
What if you crop it and then do something else to it? Will it then let you go back to the
No,
crop spot?
I just did that. I did something else to it by using,
No, but you cropped it at the end though.
uh-huh.
What if you, now if you do something to it?
You can't, oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
No, it won't let you.
Does Photoshop do virtual copies?
No, that's Lightroom.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
'Cause I was thinking you could like do what you wanted to do with CropWise and then create a virtual copy and then do your process, but I guess that's
Yeah.
not an option.
You could create a virtual copy and work on that.
Okay. Make the virtual copy in Lightroom and
Yeah.
bring it over.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do it that way, but you can't do it in Photoshop. Okay, any other questions? It's a simple tool. And there's so much I do with it. And I like doing fog pictures like this one here, you know. And I like being creative with my photos. I like to do artwork. So you'll find
Margie, Brian kind of asked the question a little bit earlier as far as, does it take you, if at 100% opacity, it takes you back to the starting of the photo. Is there any way to set like an intermediate step where you want to make that the base, if you will? So like you loaded it into Photoshop, then you did some editing of some sort, and you want that to be the base for the photo.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a different photo, so I want this to be the base. So what you're saying is, can I go through here and,
I think, Jim, the answer, because of it, because you can't go back to anything but the
see?
through end. is at that point where you've done some editing is to go ahead and save the photo and then reopen it and start over again. That way your base is your new open
Right.
Yeah,
photo.
yeah, yeah, just like I did there.
Yeah, okay.
And then I can go back with this and it'll take you back. But it won't take me back to the original photo that I started off with this and made this. Did that make sense?
No, what did
This
you?
has already been saved. This is, let's say this photo here, I've already saved it. And I saved it.
As it currently looks, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saved it from this. This is the original right here. This is what this photo is.
Oh, that's a saved version of, okay, I'm with you
That's
now.
the
I'm
same
sorry.
version of that photo. I started off with this photo and I ended up with this photo.
Yeah, Margie, I think what Jim was asking was, like in Lightroom, we have snapshots.
Yeah,
You can do a snapshot at a certain level and then do some more work and do another snapshot.
you do
Jim was
that with your
asking-
history panel. Yeah, you can do that over here with your history panel. Like
Yeah,
here.
I know that, but what Jim was asking was, is there a way to make like one of those snapshots, the base that the history brush only goes back to that point?
I haven't tried it.
Okay.
Here's the snapshot. All right, I just made a snapshot. So you're saying, can I go ahead and I'm not quite following you, so.
Well, okay, keep on going. So you did this edit. Now, let's say you changed your mind, go to your
I do
history
another
brush
snapshot,
and get rid of that.
get rid of this.
Yes.
Yeah, I can get rid of that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So in this case, it didn't take you back to the original because you had saved this.
No, I've already saved this.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
So can you do something, save a snapshot, and then see if you can, if it'll erase it,
All right, let me see here.
I think is what he's asking.
I'm gonna just go here. I'm gonna do a snapshot of that. And then can I go back and erase this is what you wanna know?
No, do something to it, then come back to this.
Yeah, but it's erasing what she already snapshotted. So the answer is no. You're going to have to do like Brian said, save it and then reopen it as the base.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. I haven't worked with snapshots in a long time, guys, so it's not something that I work with the history, but I don't always work with the snapshots. I know how to do it. It's been a while. All righty.
I just tried to do that while multiple layers in snapshots, and it goes all the way back to the original picture, no matter what.
Yeah, just like mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be
Save it and then,
you'd have to save it and then reopen the picture
right.
as a new file at that point, and then it would only go back to that original picture at that point.
Yeah. I'm just gonna get rid of those snapshots. Okay, and there's the original picture. Okay? Anything else? You can take over. How do I get out of here?
No, hey, Margie, and just Beth and I are probably both sitting here thinking that we can accomplish what you did in on one and capture one, because all the work in those is all automatically by a layer, and
Uh-huh.
you can change the opacity of all your individual layers. That would. So I guess this is just like a quick and dirty way to do it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, I could do all of this on layers, or, but this is, you don't always have to use layers. When I'm here playing with it, I'm not always using layers. A lot of times I do use layers because I want to go back to each, you know, layer and maybe make another edit to it. But if I'm just sitting here playing with something, I'm not using layers on something like this because it's so easy. You know, you can use different backgrounds. There's all kinds of things, ways you can make this into this. It's just that it was faster for me to do it the way I showed you to do it. And I'm doing that all the time using the history brush and different tools you have on the side, of course. So, okay. You want to stop sharing? I'm leaving you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I apologize. I'm going to sign off. Enjoy the rest of the meeting, and we'll see you sometime soon.
Okay, Jim. Thank you.
All right.
Good luck
See
with
ya.
your sunset.
Bye, Jim.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Okay. Alrighty, here. Let me get my Photoshop up, and then we'll take a look at the next brush, the next thing. You guys see my Photoshop now?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So the next tool in the list there after the history brush is a eraser tool. And it's got an eraser tool, a background eraser tool, and a magic eraser tool. So let's explore them and see what they do. So when I did just a plain eraser tool, we can just erase part of the picture and it goes into a transparency in the background. That's pretty self-explanatory. But I wanted to try something a little different and see if I could get it to erase to something else underneath of it. So if I do another layer, we're going to take that layer and I'm going to turn it completely green just for fun. And then I'm going to move that layer below the original one just so that it's below it. And then let's go to the eraser tool and see what happens when we erase now. Oh, I got to go to the right layer.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me why it did that? I know why, but can you tell me why?
But that because go ahead. Because on the original layer you had that.
Yeah, on my bottom layer, whenever I was on the wrong layer and I hit the eraser tool, it erased that section right there to that. And then I went to the right layer and started doing my erasing, and it's showing what I erased below there. But
Right.
you can see how I can erase now from here to what's below that layer. So it'd be a way of combining a couple pictures. If you wanted something from one picture to show up in this one, you could erase it from below to that one. Not the best way to do it, but it is a way you could do it.
And can I jump in on that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've used pretty much that same technique where I had a large group of people and I had to take one of the people had a bad expression in the best shot where most of the people were smiling and the one person wasn't. but they were smiling good in another one, I would create the layer, and then I would put it underneath the good one, and then I would erase through to the expression. Basically, what you're doing right here. In other words, I took two different frames, put them in register, one behind the other, and then erased just the face to I erased on the good one, the one that had the most smiles, to the face underneath that had the good smile. In other words, to add their good smile from bad frame 2 to good frame 1. And then collapse it. Then collapse it. Merge it. Same technique. That's weird.
There you go. It's pretty cool. Anyhow, I'm playing now.
Yeah.
Let's take it all the way back to the beginning and start over again. Okay. So what about this in the eraser tool is also what's called a background eraser tool. I'm not sure how that works, but I bet it would work better on a portrait than it would on that picture. What do you think? That's kind of strange. I don't know what it does. Anybody use a background eraser tool?
I never used it.
I was just playing with it on Elements and I can't really figure out how it works.
Google it.
They've added several new tools from my CS6 that I used to use all the time to CC, and I haven't been with CC that long, so.
Okay, so that didn't do what I thought it would do on a portrait. I thought maybe we could use that to get rid of the background on the portrait. It does do a little bit, but not exactly what I was expecting it to do.
Go over her again.
If
Her
I go,
hair. Yeah, it
it
doesn't do it.
erases her.
Yeah.
What's a magic eraser tool? Oh, cool.
Just like the magic wand almost.
Like a magic wand, so you can erase whole sections based on tones and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then it catches something that you don't want it to do. All right, so we have an eraser tool. Take that back to the original. Close that, we'll go back to Belvedere. Why is that out like that?
Did you already go over the clone tool last time? Oh, okay. The only thing, you probably already mentioned it, but whenever you do cloning, I always go 100% or above. Because if you just clone off the picture, you're not going to get a good clone.
How do you go above 100%? It'll let you go to 100%.
No, you can go all the way up.
It's all the way up.
Yeah, just hit Z for zoom.
Oh, you mean it, I'm sorry. You mean it, I know what you mean.
Yeah, get it. I don't want it pixelated, but I want it close to it. Yeah, there you go.
Clone, yeah, you clone
It's
up.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
When you clone, you always need to go.
I got you. I thought you meant the opacity. It only lets you go to 100%.
No, not the opacity, the size.
Okay. All right, so that's the eraser tool. Next is a gradient tool.
Oh, yeah, we know what that is.
We do.
Well, you do. You showed it to us. There, yeah.
Here we go. Now, I use the gradient tool all the time in Lightroom. So that did a gradient based on the foreground color that I had chose over here, which is bright green, as you can see.
Up there.
Now, the thing that I like about the Lightroom gradient tool is that you can actually go in and make adjustments to that tool once it's in there.
Well, you got adjustments up here on the top too.
Yeah, but they're not the adjustments that Lightroom has. I can move the gradient tool in Lightroom. You know, even if I did that, I can go back in and twist it and turn it and have it come in from one side. Or this, it's once it's there, it's there. You can't reposition it.
So this gradient tool, your screen's a little fuzzy when it comes through, so I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
really tell. But is it just to do a certain color? It's not like to do lighting or anything like that?
You can do different colors with it.
But I mean, like, is it like if you didn't want to do green over top, but you wanted to do with the lighting instead of...
Why don't you make the colors black and white?
You see down here? Oh, I've got my arrow going. Down here, you change the colors where the two square boxes are. Yeah. You can go ahead and make those, you know, whatever color you want.
But I think what Melissa's referring to is like in Lightroom, you can use this to add light or subtract light or add a direction of light.
Yes.
Where here it seems to be more of what color you're putting in down here.
Yeah, it's the color and also the, well, you can use your eyedropper to get any color you want down in your gradient tool.
But that's not, but that's what I'm asking. It's only a color. Whatever color you want, it's only a color. It's not just lighting or shadows.
I think you
There's
need to-
another
Oh, I
way
see
you can
what you-
use it. If
think you
you
need to
add
make a
another
duplicate.
layer on top where you change the lighting, you can use the gradient on that layer to block that layer out part way across.
Yeah. You need another background layer, a duplicate.
There was a shot of Jonathan Run Falls that I posted a while ago that is I think it goes from colored pencil to the normal or something like that, or even black and white to normal to color. And that's because I put a second layer above and then made a gradient to mask out half of it. So you could do the same thing using levels or something like that as your second layer and then mask with a gradient.
Okay, you want me to do that? You can explain to me as I do it. I'm not sure how to do it.
Okay.
I have a second layer here. I am on the second layer.
Okay, do something like use a filter and make it watercolor or something that'll show up nice and obvious. Or even black and white.
There's watercolor.
Okay, now in that watercolor layer, use a layer mask. And in that layer mask, make it a gradient. Go back to the gradient tool and do it, and it'll mask it so that you see the normal underneath.
Okay. You can
See?
see the normal down here underneath. Okay. I understand that. That still doesn't answer, I mean, it doesn't answer the question that Melissa had, which was, I don't see, well, I don't know, maybe you could, but I think it's easier to do in Lightroom, Melissa.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so it's only a color, whether you use it as a shading or a blocking or however.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a second?
Sure.
If we go back to the back, I got bombed out for a second there. Everything froze up. right in the middle of it. But all I was going to say real quickly is the background eraser tool, the way it works is it can be background or foreground. You choose a color and then it just erases that color. Okay? That's all I wanted to say. That's the way it works. You choose a color and it erases that color. The only reason I know that is I just read it here, but I'm not sure how you pick that color. I guess you go to an area and you click on it, but the purpose of the background eraser tool is simply to choose a color and then it'll erase it. Like if you wanted to change the background behind a flower, it just choose that basic color as long as the flower doesn't have that color, or stay away from the flower as you erase that color.
Okay, I understand, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
What's your colors? Oh, never mind.
I did a color pick there for the blue, but it erased everything.
Yeah. I think you need to make a background layer, and then you need to make a mask, a layer that's a gradient mask.
I'm still on it. Let me see if I can find it. I didn't mean to make you back up, but okay, there it is. I can read it. It says, let me see, am I still on? Okay, it says the background eraser tool is especially useful with photos that contain lots of fine detail along the edges between your subject and its background. Like, for example, if you want to erase the sky in an image without erasing the trees below it. And since Photoshop has no way of knowing what's considered the background in a photo and what isn't, it's just as it can easily be used to erase any part of the image. It's really a color eraser, and that's the quote. It's really a color eraser. It samples colors as you drag the tool over them and erases only those colors, leaving all the other colors untouched. So if your sky is blue and your trees are green, the background eraser can easily erase the blue sky and leave the trees alone. So it says here.
So it says, but I obviously,
It's not doing it, huh?
obviously that ain't doing it.
Yeah. Does it have to do with, do you have any feathering and width or anything like that? You can narrow it down so it's just on that color. What's the percentage or anything like that? Sometimes
Edges.
I can't see.
Okay, now it's going around the trees, kind of.
All of a sudden.
Why change the limits to fine edges?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's beginning to do something like what it describes.
Yeah, find edges.
Well, you know, a lot of it is, depending on what you're doing, the eraser tool, it acts a lot like the history brush. You can make an adjustment to the picture and then you go back through there and just erase your adjustment and it won't erase anything else but your adjustment.
Yeah, you know, really, I was just thinking the quick selection tool is very similar. Once you've done a quick selection, you can desaturate or you know, change the color of it. No.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to play with that one more.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't seem to do what we think it's supposed to do. So I'll have to look at it some more. All right, back to the gradient tool. I think we covered. I mean, we know what it does. It puts a gradient in. It says in the description, creates a gradual blend between colors, is what it's telling you that it wants to do. I'm sure that there's ways of using it with layers and masking and stuff like that to make it do different things. But the basic idea of it is it creates a gradient with color. All right. Next is a blur tool. And under that, you have a smudge tool as well. So let's take a look at blur. Get a bigger brush here. And blur does just what you think it does. it blurs out that area. Let me strengthen it up so that it makes more sense. You can see it. See how it blurred the picture in the middle? So you could use this, you know, if you don't have a 1.4 lens and you want to show a 1.4 lens, you could use the blur tool and blur your background. Smudge, a little bigger brush. Smudges things. Eventually that'll stop.
Yeah.
So when you use the smudge tool, you got to use it very carefully in very, very small amounts, because you'll end up with something like that, unless that's what you're going for. You know, you can smudge this guy out this way and maybe a little up that way.
Almost like the liquefier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I've used the smudge tool to make people skinnier, but liquefy works better. Okay, any questions about blur or smudge? Okay. The hell is that? It's a triangle.
Sharpen.
Sharpen.
Sharpen tool.
Sharpens the edges. Okay. And you have modes: darken, lighten, hue, saturation, color, luminosity. We'll leave it at normal right now. And of course you have opacity. And let's blow this picture up just a hair just so we can see what it's doing. So you can brush in your sharpening into an area. You guys see that?
Yep, 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 yep.
Now I have used this a lot. Like if I take a picture of water and I want the rocks underneath the water to be a little sharper, I will brush in a sharpening on those rocks so that it doesn't sharpen all the water, but it sharpens the rocks underneath of it, if that makes sense to you.
You just got to be careful because you can't over sharpen.
Well, yeah, I would never be sharpening at a strength of 100%. I'm just
Yeah.
doing that at this point just to show you what it's doing. But I would be more sharpening along the lines of maybe 25 or 30%,
Yeah.
and then seeing if I need to add in again after that. But because you can see that's very much what I would consider over sharpened.
I've
You
been
can
known to
tell when you
use
blow it up too.
What was that?
You can really tell when you blow it up and you make your picture larger. You see?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
But I
been
use
known
that
to,
tool too. I'm sorry, whoever. I keep.
sorry.
Melissa, go ahead.
I've been known to use it in an eyeball.
Yes.
Mm.
You can get in and sharpen the iris or the color. Is it the iris, the color part of the eye? And it'll bring out all that little information inside that color, which is pretty
Yeah.
good.
I mean, it not obviously not at 100%, but enough to really
Yeah.
make them pop a little more.
And like I said, I would never be sharpening at 100%. I'm just doing that so you can see
Yeah.
in the picture what it's done. Let's go over here. This isn't the best picture for sharpening, but let's see if we can sharpen her eyes up a little bit there and go down to in the 30% range. I don't know if you'll be able to tell this or not.
Yeah.
Do the eyelashes.
We'll sharpen her eyebrows a little bit too. So if we go original, to sharpen. You can see a little bit of difference. Like I said, it's not the best quality picture because it's a free download, but you can see definitely a difference in there
Right.
if you're looking at that. At least I can. I don't know if you can on your screen, but I can see it.
I can see.
Let's go back to our blur tool. We don't want it to be that big of a brush. Let's small that down. Take out the wrinkles. Now that was at 100%. Again, I wouldn't do that at 100%, but let's take that straight down. You can see how that, with just that little bit of a blur tool, you can take those wrinkles out too in a portrait.
One of the things you can do if you set it high and then you take the wrinkles out, if you used only a single stroke, you can go back up into your edit and you can come back to that tool and you can actually take that off right up there. Just go back up into edit where it says edit upper left hand corner, and you'll get a slider that allows you to see where it says fade? If you'd already done it. It depends on what stage of the game you're in. It might be out of it. But anyway, you'll get a slider that you can move it back and forth and decide just how much of that you want taken out.
Oh, huh.
As long as you do it with a single stroke. So you just load it up and you take them out, and then you go back to edit and you take the slider and move it around until you get where you want it. Sometimes a subject will have a mole and you don't want to take it out, but you want to reduce it. So you take it out and then you start from 100% and you.
That's a good point out there, Rex. You guys see that working?
I really like that. If you take it up to 100% and then you can change the opacity as you wish.
Right.
That's nice.
I missed that. Can you do that again?
Sure. Let's go back to we'll go back to here. I am going to blur this area around her eye, but we're going to do it all. Sorry, my Siri was talking to me again. We're going to do this all with one stroke. So not a bunch of strokes, but one stroke with the button down. Let's blur all that up. And obviously that looks weird because it's too much. If we go up to edit, and then we have a fade blur tool, then we can change the opacity of that blur.
So you can dial in how many years younger you want to look.
Right.
Oh, I'm at the age now where I'm probably in the 80–90% range, so 50's not going to do it.
But that's a good, I didn't know that existed. That's a good point out, Rex. Thank you very much. I will use that in the future, no doubt. But that's pretty neat. So you can adjust that. You just do 100% and then adjust it back to where you want it to look, to what you want it to see, what you want to see. Pretty cool.
Do you use the blur tool on the mole too? Is that what you used?
Who, me?
Rex.
Oh, Rex. Rex is missing. I think we lost Rex.
Okay. Not a big deal.
He
But
did say
he
he
did on the mole to reduce his mole.
he did say he froze up a little bit ago too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, very cool. All right, I forgot what was we doing. Oh, we were We were sharpening things and we ended up blurring things. Okay, moving on. The next one is your dodge tool, burn tool, and sponge tool.
I love the dodge tool.
We're going to look at dodge, but let's go over to, I don't know why that's doing that at this point.
I use it on the teeth also.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's take this guy back to the beginning just so we know where we're at. All right, so we got a dodge tool. We're going to dodge up here, and a dodge tool does just that. It lightens stuff up.
Or darkens it.
That's what a burn tool does.
Burn tool.
Now look at up beneath, you've got it on highlights. Now you bring it down and you've got the other two, and watch what the other two do.
It does the same thing. It lightens it.
Shadows, yeah.
Yeah, a dodge tool lightens things.
Well, you have the highlights you can use like in a forest, in the ground, and you can use the dodge tool to bring in highlights. But the midtones will make it a different.
Right, but it's going to lighten that area. A dodge means lighten, always.
I understand dodge means lightening, you know, the burn tool is going to be to darken it, but they still do different things. Like on that one with the tree that I showed you, I could never have used the highlight one. It would not have worked right. Would not
Right.
have.
No, I'm agreeing. You want to pick what you're dodging. If you're wanting to dodge shadows and leave the highlights alone, you pick shadows. If you're wanting to dodge midtones and leave your shadows and highlights alone, you would choose midtones. And if you're wanting to dodge or lighten your highlights and leave your midtones and shadows alone, you would choose highlights. And it will, the computer, Adobe will pick what is highlights and what are midtones and only bring up your highlights. You know, and it'll pick, it picks what you're looking for and works with just that. But in any way, shape, or form, it's going to brighten or lighten that area.
Right.
If I'm telling it to look at shadows, and I go over this, it's going to mainly pick anything that it feels as a shadow and lighten that area. Does that make sense, everyone?
Does to me. Like I said, I use that on the teeth too.
Yeah, definitely. When you want to clean teeth. Oop, wrong button. So if you want to lighten your teeth up, and again, I'm at 100%, so you wouldn't be doing this at 100%. But you can get in there and just lighten teeth up on a person, or even to lighten the eyeballs up.
Right.
I keep hitting the wrong key. But you can get in here and just dodge that area a little bit, that white, and it lightens that area up for you. So that's part of your process of fixing a portrait, is getting the teeth and the eyes a little bit whiter. So you're going to use your dodge tool to do that in Photoshop.
Is there an advantage to doing those kind of things in Photoshop versus Lightroom, or doesn't it really matter?
No, Lightroom's pretty good at that. If you use, you can brush in, and in Lightroom, there's actually a preset for teeth.
Right.
That's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So one way or the other, I mean, I use Lightroom for that, or I use Photoshop for that, either way. The eyes, I think, work better in Photoshop because you can get down and work, I think, a little bit closer and in a smaller area when you're working in the eyes. And if this was a full, I mean, I'm at 200% right now. If this was a full res picture, we could get down in there and really work along there with the eyes. I use both. I don't know, one or the other.
I use both, but I really like Photoshop for touching up eyes, because I can get in real close to it, make my circle real small, and pick the percentage that I want to focus on. And then I just use the dodge to whiten or make the colors pop or and then sharpen it all as well.
Yeah.
And it's great for hair too, to add highlights to the hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I use the dodge tool a lot.
All right, let's go look at, let's go back here and let's look at the burn tool, which does basically just the opposite. And it also, up on the top there, you have your choices. You can burn shadows, midtones, or highlights. And Photoshop will do its best to find what you're trying to burn. So I'm telling it I want it to burn the highlights. And you can see when I get down here, it's burning stuff that's a little bit lighter, but when I get in here, it's leaving those shadows alone underneath the porch in that. So it's burning what it feels is a higher, brighter spot of that area where your brush is.
I use this tool also if I cannot really get into, like, a person is sitting too close to some other people and I want that one person out, I can burn that person out. Or whatever object it is, you can actually burn it out.
Let's see what it does if I tell it to burn the shadows. We're going to go across the sky up here. And you can see how it burns the darker, what would be a darker area is what Photoshop is looking at. But when I go over top the road, it doesn't bother the road at all.
Right.
So it left this wall alone, it left the road alone, but it picked up your shadows in that area. Anything that it felt was a darker area, it went ahead and burnt that in a little bit. And again, I'm at 100%. I wouldn't do that at 100%, but for you to see it, I want to do it that way so it's extreme.
Is it possible to burn a specific color? Like,
Not
can
that
you,
I'm,
like,
I don't think so.
okay.
yeah, not that I'm aware of, that there's no way to do that. To tell it to just burn blue. Is that what you mean?
Right, right.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Me either.
And Margie, do you ever use a sponge tool?
You know, I have used the sponge tool. You can show them what it does. But it was in CS6, so it's been a while, if that tells you anything. I can't even remember what I used it for. Let's see if I can.
I'm not even sure what it's doing. Let's see here.
God, I can't
You can
remember.
either saturate or desaturate.
Okay, so it's
on the top.
desaturating.
Saturates.
So I have it set at desaturate right now. Let's raise that to 100% so we can see it. All right, so you can see it taking the color out of there. Some, not all of it, but it is taking some of it out of there. Let's see what happens if we tell it to saturate. So it's saturating the colors and making them.
Sort of like a fall color. Oh, well, you're using the wrong picture to, well, it's adding, see? And
Yeah,
if you had
it's
trees and
adding-
stuff, it would, yeah, it's got a goldish tint.
Yeah, in here it picked up all that green and stuff like that and brightened it up.
Right.
It brightened the sky up.
Use it on trees and they'll make it look almost fallish. That's such a word.
Fallish.
F-A-L-L-E-S-H.
Okay, does anybody want me to explain what the text tool does?
Oh my gosh, that thing is so it's so deep.
A what?
It's a whole,
What tool?
the text tool.
Text tool.
There's so much
We
you
use
can
that a
do.
lot.
So it adds, when you use the text tool, it adds it on as a layer. Let me get rid of that.
Mhm.
We'll start over here again. Let's go to, I'm going to click on just a regular text tool. Let me get a font that makes more sense, about a 14.
Font is right next to it.
Yeah, that's okay. The font is okay. And the color, let's make it black. And I'm going to go in here and just click here, and then I can write. I'm just hitting keys. And if you get your, if you're clicked in your text tool in there, you can still go back and I can make a change if I screwed up my spelling. If I take my cursor and move it up here, then I can move where that text goes.
Can you tell me what that says?
Can I tell you what that says? No, it's a bunch of letters.
I know it is.
Still text.
Now there's also other parts of text you can make it change to where it goes up and down on the left hand side, or right, up and down, or horizontal like normal. You can also up top here, you can have text work on a arc or the lower side of an arc, or the upper, and it stretches and it does all kind of strange things. And then each one of those you can adjust
The size.
back and forth different ways, distortions, and all that stuff. Bugle. There's a flag. Can't really tell it, but you can see how it goes up and then comes back out. Let's take some of the distortion out of it. You can see how that flag you get the idea of a flag kind of thing going on there. But anyhow, that's text. You can fool around with all kind of different types of text and the way that happens. You can do 3D text. I don't mess with that. That little button brings up your gallery information for your fonts, your sizes, your what you're using, color, all that kind of stuff. You can adjust through that with that button. And also under text is a vertical type tool, so I can go in here and text, and you can see that I wrote in a vertical fashion. And each time you do that, it adds it in as a layer, so you can move it around, delete it. If you don't like it, just get rid of that layer. Everybody okay with the text tool? That's the basics of it. That's pretty much what it's designed to do.
Yeah, it's just practicing.
Yeah. All right. Next is a pen tool, and under the pen tool, there is a lot of stuff that it does. Let's just start out with the pen, and let's get a bigger pen, maybe. Okay. Can anyone tell me what I'm doing? I'm drawing a line with a path. Draw a line with a shape. I'm not sure. I never use this, so if anyone can help, I would appreciate it.
You can make different graphics with it. This is great for a map, because you got your curves and etc. that you can make in there. And I use this when I do maps.
Okay.
But you've got all kinds, you just grab one edge of it. Let me see. Yeah, then grab that one edge over here to your left or to your right and bring it anywhere you want. Just play with it. See? There's all kinds of things you can do.
Okay.
What does it do?
What he's doing.
But what's the purpose?
I use it for maps. That's the only thing I use it for is maps. Like, if somebody wants to know how to get to my house.
A map.
Okay.
Can I associate it with something else that I use? Is
Sure.
the magnetic lasso. And that's kind of going back, because if we had started at the top, I think you already went through it. The magnetic lasso tool.
Right.
It really is a way of controlling how you put the selection on a more complicated subject. So I find I've tried using the pen tool. I don't like it. Some people, they have the agility, it works for them. But what I found is the magnetic lasso tool does the same thing. You're making a selection. There may be more options for the pen tool that you don't have with the magnetic lasso, but I don't know what they are. But the magnetic lasso, I think, to me, is doing the same thing.
I don't know.
You
It
know
does
what?
the same thing. I don't think it does the same
The,
thing.
the magnetic lasso is designed for doing
Selection.
selections, where your pen tool is
Yeah.
actually, this is not doing a selection, it's adding something to it.
That
Oh,
If I do a
adding.
form pen, it's adding that as a black shape on top of my picture.
I'm watching you do this, and do you remember when we talked about doing the portal pictures?
Yes,
This looks like something you would use to create a portal.
that could be true, yes.
You can also change the color.
Well, of course.
Okay, I have my Photoshop CC book here, and I looked up the pen tool, and like your little circle that you made there, you can select that and then put it onto another background. So it is kind of like a selection tool. Because example here, they had like a violin and they did a diamond shape, and then they took that and put it on a sheet of music on the background.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of this stuff, even though we're in the photography base thing, a lot of this I think has a lot to do with design.
Right.
Yeah.
Like to do like the graphic arts.
Yeah, which Photoshop was originally designed. That's actually what it was designed to do, was graphic arts, not photography.
So yeah, the pen tool is like, you know, where you're cutting stuff out. And I don't see us using it a whole lot.
No, me neither. All right.
Well, I use it with, like I said, I don't know what you have up on top, but do you have it in the path? Because that's the one I use it on. Oh, you had the shape. See, now if you click it, and try the move tool. I was going to convert you over there.
Yeah, that didn't do what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Like I said, I use it for maps, so I'll show you how to get somewhere.
Okay. Like I said, again, I don't think it's something that we're going to use in our photography, so we're not going to spend any more time on that.
Yeah.
The next thing is a path selection tool. Select the whole path. And there's a direct select tool. I don't know what that does. You guys ever use it? Active layers, all layers. Unless you have to have a path on there somewhere, I don't understand. Another tool that we don't use. I don't see it doing anything.
No, I don't use it.
Okay. Onward we go. The hand tool, pan over different parts of the image. So I use the hand tool all the time. I use it by touching the space bar. But if we got a picture that's bigger than our screen and we need to move it, you can go click on the hand tool and grab it. It lets you move your picture around. Or if you're on any other tool at all and you hold the space key down, it gives you the hand so you can move stuff around.
I use it all the time, but like you said, space bar.
Yeah. And there's a rotate tool. How about that? Oh, look at that. I just made myself busy as hell. All right. That's pretty cool, actually. I may use that in the future.
The hotel burnt to the ground. Is it still rubble, or are they doing anything with the site?
As far as I know, it's still rubble. Okay. And that is the zoom tool, which we all know what that does. Hold the Alt key down, it becomes a negative and goes back the other direction.
Yeah, I use that almost every time.
I never use it because I use Control Plus and Control Minus.
No, I use that Zoom too. It's
Control
one of my
Plus,
standard ones.
Control Minus, same thing.
Yep. You never went over the paint bucket.
I did last time.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was up here somewhere.
Underneath the gradient. Paint bucket is under the gradient.
Not in here. We went over the paint bucket though. But we're using that photography thing, which I don't know where it's at this point.
It's supposed to be under the gradient tool. It's the only place I've ever found it.
I don't have a clue what that. Oh, that's a customize the toolbar thing.
Let me see. If you can hear me, I've been knocked off the air 2 times so far. Down at the bottom, those 3 horizontal dots.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you click on them, they'll give you some more tools.
Yeah.
There they go.
That's giving you a lot of the tools that were when we switched to photography.
There's the paint bucket.
Oh, okay. I haven't switched to photography. Okay.
Yeah. So they're underneath that.
Well, I like the paint bucket. The reason I use it is because I take a lot of pictures of the sky. And you can custom put those pictures into the paint bucket. So when you make a selection, not of forest or anything like that, but let's say of buildings, then you can use a paint bucket with one of your custom skies and just pour it on in.
Yeah. All right. After that, we have our color selector, foreground and background. You can switch them back and forth with the arrows, and then you can choose any color you want in there and make that your foreground color, or you can flip that and pick another color for your. You change your foreground and background colors. And then you can use that with brushing and all that kind of stuff. So we use that a lot. Anytime you're not sure what colors you have, if you click the other little foreground background thing there, it automatically goes back to black and white. The next one is the edit in quick mask mode. I never use that. I don't know if any one of you guys do.
I didn't have it on my other PS6.
And this bottom button down here, I never use the button, I use the letter F. But you can go from standard screen mode, or you can go to full screen mode, or you can go to, that's full screen mode with the menu bar, and then there's full screen mode, which is just gonna be the picture itself. Or you could just use the letter F and bounce back and forth between those. And that, my friends, gets us to the end of the toolbar. That only took 9 hours. Well, almost 6 hours actually. Questions? Comments? Suggestions? Hi, Annie. I see you're here.
What difference does it make whether you have black, blue, or red as your foreground or background color?
Well, your foreground and background color is what you're going to be. So if I was brushing in something, so here, if I go click my brush tool, it's going to brush in my foreground color. Let me get a bigger brush so we can see it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing now.
No, you just got your.
Oh,
You're not painting on a layer.
I picked a brush that was way too big. So it brushes in the color that's in the foreground. So if I switch that to white, it brushes in that color. Or if I wanted to brush in a specific color, like the sky, then I can come down here and brush in that same sky color. Does that make sense, Melissa?
Yeah. Does anybody use, do you use that a lot?
You
Yes.
use that a lot when you paint on layers. And
Yeah,
use
when we start talking about layers and masking and stuff like that, black and white becomes very important because one puts on, one takes off when you're talking about a layer mask. And then other colors become important later on down the road too. But yes, that is something that you will use quite often.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
use that all the time if I'm doing something on the screen to show what it'll look like if I hand color a print. I'll pick the color, because if you click on the square that's the foreground, it'll bring up the box where you can just pick any color it's in there. And so I'll find something that I know is close to the oils that I'm going to use to paint on whatever print it is. And I can make it look like kind of close to what I'm going to end up with, just to see if the color mix is good or something like that before I commit to doing it on paper.
Okay. I mean, I understand that the white and black is, add and delete, but I never figured out how to use the colors because it looks like I added fake color when I do it. I can't never get it to look like it blends into the picture or anything.
There's a reason for different colors.
The opacity has a lot to do with how natural it looks when you're brushing in something.
I've actually taken flowers and I've taken a selection tool, select the flowers, went to the color that I want for the flower, use the opacity tool and colored that flower in. So there are different things like that.
I think I might know what you just said, but I don't know what you just said.
I'll take one of the selection tools, select the flower itself, the petals of the flowers. Then I'll go ahead and change that white flower maybe to a pink one. So I'll go down to your selecting your paint. Then I'll bring the opacity down because I don't want that paint to be like blue. I want to be able to see the petals in there. And then I'll go ahead and I'll paint that flower. Did that help you? Do you have a flower to do it or anything? Brian, do you have that you can do? Doesn't have to be a flower. It can be just anything that is easy to select. There's a bird. Take your bird. Do the bird, do the bird. Make it pink.
I don't know what I just did. There's a bird.
Okay, well, select the bird.
You're rushing me. Leave me alone.
Do a control D.
It won't let me. There. Oh, good Lord. This is what I wanted.
Do your magic wand or do your quick selection.
There. That's what I wanted. I
Okay.
picked the wrong tool, damn it.
Now go down and change the color. Make it blue. Heck.
Okay. Blue.
No.
Can you
The
zoom in?
opacity.
Can you zoom in just a little closer? So maybe one click. Hey, there we go.
Now go up to the opacity and make it really low.
Opacity of what?
Right here on the,
Your brush.
see where I'm pointing?
On my brush.
All right. Well, it didn't have to be that low, but now go ahead and paint it in. You can bring the opacity up some, but you know, I think you've only got, yeah. But anyway, a bird I probably wouldn't do it on, but you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to a flower.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, then you'll have all of the, like the feathers of the bird is still showing through. Really, it looks 100% better than what he just did it, but it gives you an idea.
Okay.
Okay.
Then you can take the history brush and you can brush the red back in. Now I would do a little bit higher, but
That makes sense?
No.
yeah, there you go. Well, it really does great on stuff like flowers.
Yeah, because flowers have a lot of different colors and textures.
Yeah, you can make a flower, and I've done that many times. If I don't like the looks of the color, I'll go ahead and change it.
Okay. Cool. All right. Questions? You guys are all so quiet and
Means everybody knows everything now.
yep, I don't have to teach anymore. I don't have to go over anything else. Can anyone tell me why, when I'm on my brush right now, it's not showing me what size my brush is?
You have to hit the letter 0 or the letter O.
That didn't do nothing, but thank you.
Okay.
Letter O took me to a different tool, my dear.
Oh. Letter brush. Oh. I don't know.
It was showing me earlier, but now it's not showing me. And I don't know what I did.
What do you mean, your brush?
Yeah, it should show me the brush size. See where my
What are you on? No, get down.
I'm on a brush at 100, a brush size of 100. It should be showing me a brush size.
Use your little.
Oh, be careful. You may have it like at 1,000 or something. It may be covering the entire picture.
Yeah.
Check to see that it's smaller.
I'm only at 100.
Oh, okay.
Go in the brush size and bring it down.
All right. There's one. Now, if I go up in brush size, there's 100, there's 200, there's 1,000. It ain't showing me a brush size.
Oh, there's a reason for that.
One more thing. This is just a wild guess. Check your caps lock key. Sometimes it can make a difference. There it is.
It is. That's something I didn't know.
Good job, Rick.
Yeah.
It's magic.
All right.
Okay. I don't know how I hit the caps lock key, but there we go. All right. I didn't know that, but thank you. Now I still see, now I can see where my brush is. Okay.
Know that either. That was pretty neat. Okay. Yeah, usually it's too big when I can't see my brush. I have to bring it down in size, but.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought originally because my brush size was like at 1,000, and I went, well, it's just too big, you know. And then when I brought it back down to like 100, I said, well, wait a minute, I still don't see it.
I'll be darned. I didn't know about the caps lock.
Good job, Rick.
All right. We'll paint the road blue.
Well, that lets you know the number of times I went looking for that very same problem and how many times I discovered it was the same damn thing.
All right. See that? We learned something tonight.
Yeah. Which is really going to come in handy, although that's never really happened to me, but.
I am still very, very interested in this whole background eraser bullshit.
Brian, check your slot or your chat. I sent you a link to a video.
Check my what?
It's like 6 or 8 minutes long.
I can't hear you.
Check. I sent you a private chat with a link to a video.
Oh, good Lord. Now he wants me to figure out where my chat went.
Check your email. It's there too.
All right. Well, we'll have to do that at a different point right now. But I mean, to me, background eraser should mean with that picture, I should be able to erase the background and leave the damn tree there, right?
Yeah.
No, you just did it. You just did it.
Yep.
To some extent, but it's still catching some of that tree there.
Well, you got to be careful with the feathering. Look in the upper left-hand corner. There's a number of modes that you can set. There's the speed that it works at. There's a selection of whether you're using the an actual Wacom pen, or if you have it set to airbrush versus paintbrush, and the qualities of the paintbrush. You just have to work with those and you'll get it. Also, you have different modes. You have screen mode, multiply.
Okay.
All those things.
Easy go.
But you're getting it there.
Go where? No more stickers. We have lots.
Ah, look at that.
I managed to remove the tree, but leave the background. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a tool that we need to mess around with and see what we can come up with. Fine edges seems to work the best, but still not what I would like to see. I don't know. Okay. All right. Anybody else have questions, comments, concerns, suggestions?
Yeah, I got a question.
I say, is everybody awake, or am I talking to me? Just me and Rex talking.
I'm awake.
No, I have a question.
Yes.
You said you had yours on photography view.
Uh-huh.
Why? That
Well,
takes away some of the tools.
I know, but when
Well,
we
a
were
lot of
going through tools last time and we were on a workspace of essentials, which is the default, there's 38,000 tools in here that we don't use.
I do use.
Well, that's you. The average person is probably not going to be using them.
Okay.
So we switched this to what we felt would be most useful for photography, and that's what Adobe feels that workspace is most useful for photography.
Well, that might be true for photographers, but if somebody wants to take a photo like what I did,
Then it's graphic design.
the artwork,
Right.
Yeah, that's
And
graphic
they're
design.
missing the tools that are
That is true, and that's the reason there is Essentials 3D, graphic and web, motion, painting, photography. So there's different presets in here that you can use. We just
I
chose
know
to
that,
use,
but I didn't know why you wanted to use photography when it sort of takes away a lot that you can do with a photo.
We're photographers.
yes, again, because there
Okay.
were so many tools in there that we weren't going to use, it made no sense to go through them.
But somebody like me would use them. Marty would probably use them. Melissa, Beth. They use a lot of filters, so they would probably use some of the other tools. But some
Sounds like she just needs her own setting.
Yeah, there you go, DL. Yeah, you can set anything you want on it. You can pick out all the tools that you want and make that your primary layout.
Right. But I didn't know why you were stuck with so few tools.
Up to the individual. Is what you need.
Again, we chose to do that because they were the most prevalent for just photography.
Right. But not for artwork.
That is why we've done that, because we're talking about photography.
Which
I
is
understand 100% that you use more tools, and Marty may, and Melissa may, and somebody else may.
Are you going to go off a bridge on this? I used to do this to him on Lightroom, and he on his way home, and he kept looking for a bridge to go off the side of.
You can mute her, right?
Huh?
Oh yeah.
Mountain.
He'll come back. He's looking for a bridge.
I had to go get a drink. It's 100 degrees in my house. I do not feel like arguing at this point.
Oh, geez, you're no fun. No fun.
All right. Anything else, guys?
Oh.
All right. So
Your chat.
we've got about 15 minutes. The next class, we're going to start into basic adjustment layers and making adjustments. Again, basic photography stuff.
Oh gosh.
In next year, we'll have an advanced Photoshop class, and Margie's going to teach it, and she can teach you all the other freaking tools. There's the executive decision from the president. Do I have to sign a degree and put it up for everyone to see?
Whoops.
I posted a
Sorry,
link.
guys. It is literally, it's almost 100. It's like over 90 degrees in my house right now. So
You don't have a fan?
that is with the fan and the doors and all the windows open.
Oh my goodness.
I posted a link on Reddit to a archive of Dorothea Long's photo. She's a 1930s Works in Progress Administration photography. You've seen the migrant mother photo, and it's a good site.
Okay, cool. We'll take a look at that. So anyhow, next time we're going to start talking about some basic editing. We'll talk about layers and curves and things like that, color adjustments, and then using those in separate layers. That way you can go back and forth and redo or fix something that you don't like because you have the layer to go back to work on, instead of everything being done on a single layer. That's where Photoshop, I think, outshines Lightroom a million times because you have layers. Now, Jim left, but Beth, you use the other software that does stuff in layers.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that's one of the key features of that is having layers is really nice. You can go back and work on a layer, or if you don't like that layer, just throw it away and start over again.
Even simple things, if I'm doing them in elements, I do it in layers.
Yeah. So I've gotten to the point where if I'm working in Photoshop, everything I do is on a different layer, whether it be a color adjustment or a brush or a sky change or a, you know, anything that I do is a separate layer for each thing. That way I always have that option to come back and work on that layer, change that, remove it all together, start over on that layer, whatever it is I want to do. You can do that without having to eliminate an hour's worth of other work that you've done, is the really nice part. So we're going to start next time again with the basic layers, doing color adjustments and stuff like that and using them in layers. And then we'll work our way into layer mask, which is, again, one of the best features of Photoshop, is being able to mask stuff off and erase parts and put parts in and combine stuff. And that'll get us along into the more advanced parts of the more advanced parts of the basics of Photoshop.
Things, it's always a good idea, at least for me. I find that it's saved me more times than not. Just remember, when you go into Photoshop and you start to work, the first thing you say to yourself is Control J, or whatever the Mac is, Ops J.
Command J.
Command J,
yeah,
or Control J. And then you're free to go.
Yeah, you always, you know, the first thing you should do, just like Rex says, this, we'll say this picture, I just opened it up in Photoshop. The first thing I'm going to do is a Control J and make a layer copy. Then I have a background and I have a layer 1, and you can name that if you want to. And click on it, change the name of that for whatever, if you want to make that like, say, your base layer or whatever you want to do, or just leave it as layer 1. I do find that when you get into 100 layers, it is important to name those layers as you're going along, because then you can come back and look at it. It's not layer number 59, it's the contrast layer. You know, it makes it easier to find later on down the road when you've got a bunch of layers going on in the picture. So renaming them, I think, is an important step in layering.
I always rename mine. It's too confusing.
Yeah,
Takes
but
too much time.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I when I first started with the layer thing and doing that, I would not rename them, and then I'd get there and I'd have, like I said, 20 layers, and then I was like, well, which layer did I do what on?
Yeah.
Is there a way to save it so that you can go in and see all the layers separate again later?
Yes, you save it as a Photoshop PSD document.
Yep.
Okay.
So in this particular case, this picture now has has 2 layers. If I would go to File and then Save As, I'm going to save it to my computer, and then it's going to come up here. And because it's in layers, Photoshop's going to automatically say, let's make this a Photoshop document. So it comes up and says Photoshop PSD. So when I save that as a Photoshop PSD to wherever it is, let me put it on a desktop just so we can get back to it quickly. Desktop. I'm going to save it. And yes, I'm going to go maximum. So it saves it as a PSD. Let's close it. And now I'm just going to go back in and maybe, there it is. I'm going to go open and I'm going to go back to my desktop. And I'm going to look for whatever, there's a small town, that's a different one. There it is. When I open that back up, there's my layers again. So they're still there. Until you either flatten the image or save it as a JPEG or something else, you'll always, as long as it's a PSD document, it will always have your layers there.
Okay. And then I guess if you bring it over from Lightroom and save it that way, there's no way to send it back to Lightroom then.
No, you just do a save.
Yeah.
You do a save as. If you do a save, Lightroom will know about the change.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even if you've already done the save as.
Well, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, there's no way to, unless you go, I guess, open it as another document.
No, you can go and find it in Lightroom. But the way to do it is to come out of Lightroom to Photoshop, do your work in Photoshop, and do a save. And Lightroom will know about the saved file.
Correct. But if you do a save as because you're doing different layers and want to come back later.
No, if you do a save, it will save the layered file
To Lightroom. It sends it back to, so
Lightroom.
basically what I do to make that easy is once I've done my layer work over here from Lightroom, I've come over, I've done my work. I just go up and hit the close button and it comes up and says, do you want to save this? And I just click save. That sends it back to Lightroom as a PSD document.
So your layers are still there. You can't see them in Lightroom, but they're
You can't see the layers in Lightroom, but they're there.
But if I want to keep working
Yeah,
on the
you're
different
right.
layers, I can do that.
Yeah, you go to that
Photoshop.
picture. You go to that picture in Lightroom and tell it to edit in Photoshop.
The only thing you don't want to do is you don't want to Lightroom change a PSD file and then edit that change in Lightroom in Photoshop, because Photoshop will make a new file of it, and now you have two copies. So you should either work in Lightroom or work in Photoshop. If you mix them, then you get multiple copies of a file.
If you change the name of it, if you go save as and make it PSD,
You cannot save as and work in Lightroom.
Yeah.
no, that's not what she was saying, I don't
Yes, it
think.
was.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you have a file in Lightroom and you modify it, then you can send it over to Photoshop and do more additions to it and then save it again. It'll be a PSD file at that point, but it'll be in Lightroom.
That's correct.
And if I open that file if I open that PSD file in Photoshop, I can see the layers, but if I open it in Lightroom, I cannot.
You can see the layers in Photoshop.
Right, but not in Lightroom.
Correct.
Now, if I do all that, does the original file remain untouched?
It remains untouched.
Yes.
Okay.
Lightroom will not allow you to change the original file.
Right.
So that's the best way to work on it then, because you've got a couple buffer layers from the original file, and then you've got the versatility to look at the layers or not.
Not sure I got that.
Well, what I'm saying is it's a good overall situation because you haven't touched the integrity of the original file. You've got all the Lightroom stuff and the Photoshop stuff you have is saved within the PSD file. So everything's in there, all your changes.
Correct.
Is anything saved in the Lightroom catalog at that point, or is it all in the PSD file and that's it?
No, the Lightroom catalog has an update of the file that you have changed.
Okay.
So that goes into the catalog, but the catalog contains the names, not the contents.
So I say that again, contains the what, not the contents?
The Lightroom catalog has the names of the files and links to where it's stored, but it does not, the catalog does not contain the files.
Oh, you mean the actual, yeah, the file for the changes, right?
Right.
Right.
I see what you mean. The catalog is basically a traffic cop.
Correct.
This file's linked with this file to make the changes.
Right.
Okay.
The purpose, the whole thing is when you're working on a project that maybe is going to wind up having 6 or 7 layers, or maybe even 2 or 3 groups of layers, that means a couple of days of work, which means you're going to have to put it away. And that's why you want to put it away as a PSD file so that you can pick up where you left off until you go to your next phase.
Photoshop and Lightroom handle that perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I'm working on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just was saying, good question.
Oh. No, like when I'm working on one of these cars, you know, for a show or something like that, that's days. And I have layers of files, and the PSD is the only way to go. I mean, it will preserve what you've done in each layer. It can't remember like Lightroom does when you're working on a complex set of changes in Lightroom, but at least each one of those PSD layers are saved.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to work on one of those, Rex, if you're working, say you took a picture out of Lightroom, put it in Photoshop, and you did an hour's worth of work on it, and you hit save, and it's the PSD file saved, and it's also in Lightroom, right? And when you come back to it, do you go right into Photoshop and pull the PSD file, or do you go through Lightroom again?
Through Lightroom.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dennis.
You always go through Lightroom.
So you want both of them open, okay.
So
Yeah, I
if
would
you-
sit down to the computer. I'd bring up Lightroom, and I'd be looking at that particular file. It's probably where I left it. And then I would go back up into Photoshop and retrieve that item, retrieve that image.
So you would do like open in Photoshop from Lightroom and it'll bring you right back to where you were.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I'm always afraid of doing major changes that take more than just an hour or whatever I have time to do right now, because I'm afraid I'm going to lose all that and not be able to go back and change layers.
That shouldn't happen. As long as you do a save in Photoshop of the work you have done, it'll put it in Lightroom, in the Lightroom catalog. You go to Lightroom and you'll see the file, you see the PSD file, and if you say edit in Photoshop, it'll take that work and bring it back into Photoshop, and you can continue.
Okay. Okay.
The only caveat is you have a PSD file in Lightroom. You don't want to use Lightroom to change the file. You want to, for example, you want to adjust brightness, and you say, then I want to edit in Photoshop. It will ask you, do you want to edit it with the Lightroom changes? And if you say yes, then it will make a new file and bring with the layers, not with the layers, as a TIFF file, and put it in Photoshop, and you can continue to work on it. Layers will be gone.
Okay.
So that's the one caveat. You have to be careful on how you do it. Because if you do that multiple times, then you have multiple edits of the file, and it takes up a lot of space, and it can be confusing.
Now, if you do your Lightroom adjustments, and then you take it to Photoshop, do different layers, save it to Lightroom, go back and forth however many times.
As a PSD.
Yeah.
As a PSD.
What I usually do is I leave it the original size.
Yeah, okay.
And then when I'm all said and done with my Photoshop in Lightroom, then I size it to what I want it to be.
That's fine.
And does that get rid of your layers as well when you do that?
Well, if in Photoshop you resize it, that doesn't get rid of the layers. But if you save it, then the information about the file size is gone.
Okay. Because I always size it in Lightroom.
Yeah, you can. And there it's reversible.
Okay. Okay. Because if I size it before I send it to Photoshop, I lose sometimes. If I need to go bigger or something, I lose that.
Well, there's a way to cheat, and while you're still in Lightroom, just make a duplicate of it. It takes about 5-10 seconds. And then you put a big red mark on it so you don't mess with it. Then you just work on what you have, and if it somehow gets pretzeled, you can still have a survived copy of it that's untouched. I've lost them before. It's happened, but I've learned my way around it.
That was helpful. Thank you.
All right. Good question.
Well, there's one more cheat too. When you have it up in Photoshop, you just save it. You can save it at another location and still continue working on it.
You can do that, but then Lightroom is lost.
Yeah.
Lightroom will not know about the file unless you go and add it. And if you want to do the extra step, you can do that. But unless you do the extra step, you won't find the file in Lightroom.
And sometimes that may not be a bad thing.
No, it's what your end purpose is, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? All right, guys, that brings us to 9 o'clock. I guess I could do that. And there's something in chat, something about background eraser tool is in there.
Oh, it's probably what I sent before.
No, that one's from DL in the,
Oh,
chat,
okay.
in the chat. So it's a YouTube video. So that's in the chat there if you want to go click on that and get that open on your screen before I close up for the evening.
I think it's
Only in your chat.
Yeah, it's not in my chat.
Oh, never mind. He sent it to me privately. That's why.
You can YouTube it.
I can YouTube it. And hang on. I will resend that into chat to everyone. That way y'all can see it. There you go. You should be able to see that now in chat.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a video about how to use the background eraser tool in Photoshop.
I mean, don't watch it right now.
Yeah, don't watch it right now, but it's there. So if you wanted to click on it and get it open, that way you can look at it after the meeting or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, copy the link.
That's what I did, was just copy the link.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else? All right.
No.
I'm going to call it an evening. I'm going to try to get myself cooled off. I may go sit in my truck for a little while with the air conditioner on. It's miserably hot, and I'm unhappy. So, with that being said, we'll be meeting next Wednesday. Will be our next meeting. That'll be just a get together, and then we'll be coming up to our SWIG meeting before long. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Alrighty.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all
Thanks,
for
Brian.
participating and stopping in, and appreciate it.
Okay.
Go get cool. Go get cool.
I'm gonna try to.
Okay, bye.
All right. Good night. Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
Good
everybody.
night.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Yeah.